grade school, Mrs. Keaton said this left-hander with a yardstick.
I didn't do that. I think I did.
Brother have a company they sell.
All right, everybody, good morning. Happy New Year. I heard that today is the official last day that we can say Happy New Year to everybody. So forgive me if I say it for about the next 2 weeks, unless you're Chinese. Yeah. And if you're Chinese, it's the year of the dragon, which is supposed to be the good luck year. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll happen, I think, in February. All right, so let's begin. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alan,
Good, happy New Year. We deserve, I think, a little luck. This is Alan, present if allowed by remote. Thank you.
Bates,
Bates, present. I sent in my request to be remote today.
Berman,
Is here.
Davis here, also remote.
Ford,
Board present, Zoom.
Gums,
Comes here.
Caius,
Vice President.
Kenyon,
In the room.
Lewis,
Lewis here.
Linder,
Linder here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez. Not on yet. Okay. Strathman,
Strathman here.
Sturgis, Tepe,
Happy here.
Heurog.
I'm here as well.
You have in-person quorum.
Okay, we have an in-person quorum. Mr. Ford, Ms. Bates, Mr. Sanchez, if he's able to join, have requested to attend remotely because of illness for all three. Do I have your permission to allow them to participate or consent?
So requested.
And Alan, of course, thank you. Deb, of course, always. So with that, Mark is as asked to listen, and Mark, you can talk, but you cannot vote because he's enjoying his grandchildren right now, which is perfect. And Mr. Sturgis, I'm not heard from Mr. Sturgis yet, so. when he-
Sanchez is present, Madam Chair.
Oh. Welcome, Mr. Sanchez. I thought I heard you click on before.
Yeah, my
So-
microphone, but thank you.
Oh, sure. Welcome. Happy New Year. So if Mr. Sturgis attends, we'll deal with that when he comes. All right, very good. So let's see, who would do the pledge today? Mr. Williams.
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
United States of America.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of December 6, 2023?
Madam Chair, this is Caius. I would ask for unanimous consent to approve the minutes from December 6, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Caius. Do we have unanimous consent for that approval? Yes? Okay, very good. Oh, and here's Mr. Sturgis in the room. All right, we have some people who have signed up to speak. So let me get out your list.
Morning. Morning. Mr. Sturgis is arrived.
Yes, no, oh, I did say that. Welcome, Mr. Sturgis.
Good morning.
Give me just a minute. I want to make sure that I check everything. Yes, it is.
On the agenda. You okay? Sleeping before the storm. So you sleep with your eyes open.
Cows. Have a tattoo, eyes, should have eyes tattooed in.
So let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right, we, just as a matter of a reminder for the speakers who are going to be speaking today, we ask that you refrain from any statements, remarks, or conduct that might become disruptive to the conduct of the county board or which might cause a disturbance. We have a number of speakers who are speaking on an agenda item today, and you will be allowed 5 minutes. If you would like to make sure, just for the efficiency of time, that if the speaker who precedes you or speakers who precede you bring up the same points, you may want to attenuate your presentation just for efficiency. But certainly that's up to your discretion. So with that, Mr. Anderson?
Good morning, Brian Anderson, Sugar Grove, Illinois. I just want to clarify, update on Kane County's established protocols regarding the migrant buses. That's why I can speak on that topic. Okay, thank you very much. So, all of my talking points are basically around one issue. This is off of Shaw Media, and this is a comment by Madam Chair. I'm not going to read the entire article. I think all of you have probably seen it. Wait a second. How did I get here? I thought I was going to Costco this morning. I unexpectedly, I wound up here. Oh, no, that's exactly what she said. The primary objective and commitment to managing the situation effectively to ensure a safe onward journey for the asylum seekers who unexpectedly find themselves in our country and Kane County. Please forgive me. I woke up this morning, I made a conscious effort to shower, shave, get dressed, get in my car, and come here to this meeting. There's nothing unexpected about it. And if you would like to have us believe that migrants from all over the world unexpectedly wound up crossing the border, taking buses, planes, and trains, and wound up in Kane County, I'm not even going to comment on what I'd like to say. Now, let me get to some facts here, folks. And by the way, this is not Brian Anderson's right-wing conspiracy theory. All of my data comes off the Department of Homeland Security, which I would encourage each and every one of you to go, or also the Illinois Department of Human Services. So she wants us to believe these are asylum seekers. Okay? I asked my wife last night, I said, how many asylum seekers did the United States allow in 2022? She's like 1.2 million. I said, actually, 25,000. That's not a big number. Interesting, in December, which we just got over, the largest number of walkovers in our history since we've been counting the data, 302,000. That's in 1 month. That's not including the other 11 months. In 2022, it was 179,000. And in 2020, which I don't want to make this political because it's a problem, but under Trump, it was only 79,000. So you would like me to believe that asylum seekers, and oh, by the way, in Kane County, there's only a few asylum refugee locations. One happens to be in Aurora in Kane County. That's it. Interesting. Since 1975, here in the state of Illinois, we've only allowed 124,000 refugees. Let me say that again, 124,000 in 49 years. Divide that over 49 years, that's 2,500 refugees. As I just stated, 302,000 just crossed. They're not all asylum seekers. Oh, and oh, by the way, there's government protocol. If I'm living in Syria and I am persecuted and my wife and 2 kids want to come over, there's a protocol. Individuals who are approved for refugee classification and assigned to resettlement agencies or sponsors that assist with housing, employment, and other services. 302,000 people. They're not coming over seeking asylum. I think my time is up, but I'm encouraging the board to take a hard look at this. And oh, by the way, yesterday, a Democrat mayor in New Jersey just said, hey, we have ordered law enforcement to charter all buses back to the U.S.-Mexican border because we're not going to kick the can. This is not a Republican mayor, it's a Democrat mayor. So what's going on in Chicago? If they come to Kane County, I would encourage all the mayors to go, we're sending them back so they can go back. There is a legal process, by the way. My wife's from Canada. It took her 18 years to get her U.S. citizenship. So I know a little bit about the immigration system. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kenneth Lobel.
I also am speaking on the same topic. Am I afforded 5 minutes?
5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. To begin, thank you guys. We can all say to 2023 and welcome 2024. So hope it's a great year. We got a Bear Packer game Sunday. I'll get quick and right to the point. So thanks for opening public discussion on this topic. It's a crisis. It's a crisis of humanity and a crisis of trust. Today, I wanted to come here to give my complete support for humanity. Governments are using humanity as weapons. And this weaponization of taking people from all over the world, people we don't know, children, mothers, and fathers, people like us, we don't know them, we'll never meet them. And they're being weaponized for political purposes. It's sick. Cities are unilaterally self-declaring themselves to be sanctuary cities. They're responsible for this mess in our country. And so are the political and corporate entities sponsoring and funding the illegal entry into this country and encouraging the criminal entry against the public policy as currently established by the rule of law. And there's no innocent parties. This isn't Republican. This isn't Democrat. It's happening all over the place. And what's happening, folks, is the governments are saying we are no longer anything better than taxpayers for their criminal activities and pawns to be weaponized, and that's what they're doing. So I do have a suggestion. Before I do that, I would like to read for the public record an email that I sent. I do again want to thank you for allowing us to express ourselves. I said in the email, for the record, any crimes committed by actions of people bused or transported into this area shall be deemed an act of war, and any and all local government boards that either refused to explicitly deny access or implicitly approved or used willful blindness to be considered, you'll be considered co-conspirators in an act of warfare against the taxpayers of Kane County. That's from me, that's from my heart. I'm requesting an emergency Kane County board meeting to explicitly denounce publicly the abusive use of immigrants in a political warfare method and to deny the access of any transportation of illegal immigrants into our tax districts. The nonstop political abuse of humans as political weapons, the denial of laws and rules pertaining to immigration, and the unlawful conduct of government entities making illegal claims of sanctuary status are in opposition to the laws, the oath of office, and the rights of citizens to have a representative government. This is my official record of protest and a request for an emergency board meeting to stand with the citizens, not against the citizens. My suggestion, because we can all complain about this, but is there something practical that could be done? And I believe there is. The Kane County Board accepted a $2 million bribe. $200,000 approximately has already been spent. That was to outsource the voting to some foreign entities sponsored by Zuckbucks, and to regionalize, control, and give programmed voting machines and all the different things that we have to use based on their rules for accepting the grant. If we can do that, and if we can regionalize and outsource our right to vote, then we can regionalize and demand from the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate that they damn well fix the immigration laws and do that first thing without any attachment to their bills, because this immigration law, they know what it is. They create the law. Chicago should pay for any costs in Kane County associated with this. They self-declared to be a sanctuary city, and now they're running and hiding, just like our governor did during COVID when he ran up to Wisconsin and then Florida while he had us mandated to stay at home. So there's a lot of evidence here to say something can be done. We're here as citizens to say we're demanding something be done to protect our legal rights. And we're asking you, voice, with other counties to stand up. It's not your fault. This was brought upon all of us. It's nobody's fault here. But we can all stand up and be a loud voice against the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate to fix the damn laws that are broken, and they know it because they've been broken for 40 or 50 years. Thank you.
The next speaker is Diana Carter. Is she here? Oh, Diana, you're online?
Yeah, 1 second, please.
All right, we'll check back. We'll circle around. Jeannie Marr?
Wherever you are, I think they just mentioned your name and you're gonna lose it.
Hello, I'm Janine Mayer from Elburn. First of all, let's get the idea off the table that we're racist or cold-hearted people because we aren't supporters of illegal mass migration. We care about all people. All people are made in the image of God. What we're calling for or demanding is that immigration is done in an orderly, legal way to protect our citizens and to protect the lives of those desiring to come into our country. There is no plan, and when there is no plan, there's chaos. This onslaught of illegal immigration is no longer a partisan issue. The creators of sanctuary cities.
So you may have missed your opportunity.
Right. Hold on, can you mute Ms. Carter? Okay, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, you're fine.
The creators of sanctuary cities are raising their hands, their fists, saying enough is enough, no more, because it now is infringing on their lives, their communities, their wallets, and their property values. New York is a few months ahead of us in this problem. We can look to them to see the scope. It's massive as it affects every aspect of a community. The overload to the school system, housing. We already have a housing shortage here. The healthcare system. We're currently experiencing a doctor shortage and the longest ever wait time now for necessary operations. And the stripping of monetary resources. We have in Kane County one of the highest tax burdens in the state and in the country. When you combine the property tax, sales tax, and income tax, we cannot be taxed anymore. The counties around New York City have put into place quickly statements to say no to New York City. We have not signed up to be sanctuary counties. We, Kane County, should do the same thing to Chicago. Dozens of New York suburban counties have issued emergency orders blocking the city from sending immigrants to their counties. They're refusing arrivals of immigrants. They're issuing executive orders. They're putting into place laws that block hotels and other temporary housing from being used as shelters. We are not equipped. We do not have the resources. This process has been a disorganized disaster. To blame lies with the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, and this president. We will not destroy our community because of their lack of a plan. We need a strategy that makes societal and economic sense. It must be preemptive. We can learn from Chicago how not to do this. We hear the stories of carjacking, rape, looting, taking funds that are meant for the care of the needy citizens and using them for illegal immigrants. It's a safety issue and a crime problem. Many of these legal aliens have not been vetted because there is no way to vet them. The countries they come from don't have systems to keep track of crimes. We must have a plan to protect our citizens, our business owners, our property owners, our teachers, our doctors, nurses, and hospitals. We do have a heart to help others, but if this process isn't done correctly in the beginning, we will have nothing left to help others. The compassionate thing to do is to put in a preemptive emergency order to not allow illegal aliens into Kane County.
Donna Pinkston.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank the committee for accepting my request to speak. And happy birthday to the gentleman over here. And thank you very much for being here and listening to what I have to say. My name is Donna. I'm a resident of Kane County. I moved here in 2006 when my company transferred me here from Atlanta. I also want to express my concern for the fact that we are even considering to allow the migrants to spend one night or one day here. In my personal opinion, I think this current administration has only opened the borders for control and more votes in the future. So when I started thinking about what I was going to say or assessing this situation, I went to the internet. Of course, a lot of us do. I looked at various sites, NewYork.gov, Texas Attorney General, and Homeland Security. I was trying to gather some facts about the cost. I'm not going to go through a lot of numbers, but the one thing all these sites had in common is that the cost to provide for even one migrant is staggering, and it's unknown. Is it for one night? Is it for 1 year? Is it for their lifetime? And it's staggering. So let's talk about those costs. We do know a few things. We know the cost of housing, shelter. How much is a hotel room? Imagine hotel rooms or shelters for bus loads for maybe their entire life. We don't even know that. It's food. We've all been to the grocery store with the current administration and inflation. How much is it going to cost to feed these migrants? And who's going to prepare the food? Who's going to clean up afterwards? Who's going to do that? Who's paying for that? And laundry. They need clothing. Clean the clothes. Who's going to do that? And the unassigned children, they need to be safe. Who's going to take care of that? And let's talk about healthcare costs. The cost of their doctor visits, their medicine, their surgeries. Who's paying for that? There's already a long wait line. There's months to see a specialist if you need healthcare. What will it be like then? And the education cost. Various languages, who's going to teach them? My goodness. Our school tax is already outrageous. It's outrageous. Are we going to increase that for the education cost? And law enforcement cost. What's going to happen to our law enforcement cost to keep the citizens of Kane County safe? So who's going to pay for it? Well, in listening to the various governors and mayors that declared themselves sanctuary cities, how wonderful is that? They've been saying that the federal government doesn't support them enough, but I don't think that they will support Kane County either. So how do we pay for it? Well, there's a number of ways we could pay for it. We could reduce the funding that we have for current law-abiding citizens in Kane County. We could reduce our law enforcement. We could have less police officers, fewer police cars. We could reduce the fire department that we have, fewer fire engines, fewer fire people. We could reduce the all of the health and the medical 911 assistance that we get. We now have the wonderful privilege of thinking if we dial 911, we're going to get help pretty soon. Well, we could reduce that in order to pay for the migrants. We could give up a lot of our events. Give up the Christmas walk, give up the art festivals, give it all up to pay for the migrants. How about funding that we do for abused children, the funding for battered wives that Kane County helps? We could give that up to pay for the migrants. Or our infrastructure, keeping our bridges safe, we could give it all up. Or we could increase our taxes. We could do that. I'm on a fixed income. They do call it fixed for a reason. We keep raising these prices. How many of us could even afford to live here? So there's also another unknown, and that is very frightening to me as well. and that's our safety. Who are they? Who are the people that some of you think should be bused and allowed to live in Kane County? Can anybody even answer that? We don't know because they're not vetted. We do know this, not all by any means, but a large number of migrants that have crossed our border are MS-13 gangs that want to come into your homes with guns and torture you just so they can watch you suffer. Some come here from terrorist countries that hate America and want to kill us.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I'm in favor of the safety of Kane County citizens. And yes, I am compassionate, and I've served on various boards.
Much.
Thank you. And thank all of you.
Is Sylvia Schrage here? And did I pronounce your, probably I didn't pronounce your last name correctly. Schrage, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Schrage, and I'm probably going to cry when I speak because I have a deep love for people of all cultures. I am an immigrant, sort of, half myself, and I am coming to speak out of love for these immigrants. I grew up, my mother is somebody who did not want to call herself an immigrant because she married and came to the States to live with her husband, where the three of her children were born. She came from Argentina. And she said, I'm not an immigrant. I married and I came here because my husband is from here. When she had trouble with her marriage, because my father had a drinking problem, she said she talked to the lawyer, she tried to help him, different things, and she decided, I cannot raise these children as a single parent immigrant away from any family support. I need to go where my family can support them. And I have to say, you know, you can have different opinions about it, but thanks to her decision to have family support, I grew up with the beautiful help of 4 uncles, my grandmother, my cousins, and I wasn't the victim of social programs that didn't give me the help that my family could give me. And I consider myself very lucky for having the help of my family. Now, while I was in Argentina, I visited slums. I went to places with dirt floors. My mom couldn't ever give me many presents. We grew up when my grandmother's house was sold. I lived in an apartment that was less than 500 square meters, where the 3rd bedroom, the living room had a door, so we had 3 bedrooms instead of whatever, details. The point is, I did not grow up with a lot of stuff, but I had support from my family. Now, long story short, I've been working with immigrants here and with immigrants there from Bolivia, from everywhere. I see it here and there, the same policy, bring people over for whatever reason under a false bill of goods. We sell them a dream. It starts with the TV. In the slums, the people are crying because they can't give a gift to their children for a Hallmark holiday. I can count with one hand the gifts for my birthday that my mom could afford, but it didn't matter to me. I had the love of my family. Now, I've seen here as an interpreter, manager of interpreters at Sherman Hospital, as an instructor, somebody involved in church with immigrants, stories of people suffering from anxiety, depression, missing their family. We're not helping people with the life we're offering them. They come here out of a false bill of goods, of a dream that they cannot get, and is selling them on TV, something that they're never going to afford. And then we have people getting in debt to buy a new car that they can't afford. People who can't live in an apartment at a salary of, you know, a Home Depot job that have to have 5 people working together to pay the rent. And students who won't come to class because they're crying, missing their family, and they're depressed. People going to the ER in anxiety and depression. What is more helpful? They're coming under the false dream. Ever since I came here, I said, what is going on with immigrants? We are duplicitous. We say, don't come, don't come, don't come, don't come, come, don't come. This is what we do. So we are not helping with this false dream we're selling. And most of them, when I ask them, what do you miss? What do you like? They live a very hard life here, and they miss their family and their support. People are more important than stuff. and they are better off with the support of their family. We are not helping. And we are in the season of Christmas still, and the way that the Christ child came, he came to a manger, because it's not the dirt floor the problem. And he showed it, okay? It's our hearts, our stuff. He was better welcomed in poverty than by riches.
All right, we have a little change of staff here. Okay. So we have one last speaker, and I'd like to circle around to Diane Carter. Are you here?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can indeed. We're gonna give us
Okay,
a second.
great.
We're gonna-
Thank you.
Diana, hold up. Let's pull you up so we can see your face.
Okay, hi.
Hold on just a second. Hold on, Diana. I
Okay.
want to get you technically. Can you do it so we can see your face completely?
Yeah.
But so that, oh, all right, very good. All right, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to be here. I would like to mention that many perceptions are driven by mathematical dysfunction. I like the Hispanic people a lot. Between my experiences as a licensed clinical professional counselor and previously 12 years as a substitute teacher, I've had several hundred cross my path, so I speak knowing a statistically representative amount. They're hardworking, family-oriented, nurturing, friendly, and helpful. Also, I deeply appreciate the fact that, like other white people, I am the descendant of immigrants. However, my grandparents came here legally. They went through the vetting system and were acknowledged as people appropriate to live in the United States, hence they were allowed to come. What I don't like, however, is any action that breaks the law, even if this law breaking is driven by extreme hardship. Therefore, I have highly mixed feelings about this situation. I feel compassion for the arduous and cruel circumstances these people are fleeing, but I also believe that we need to not set ourselves up for failure, which is a symptom of the addictive personality. Just like I would not open my bedroom, kitchen, or bathroom to an unwanted or uninvited guest who would stay forever, I don't care to open up my neighborhood to the same thing. Other countries have very poor ways of taking care of their population. That is unfortunate, but not our responsibility. Just because people can walk across our porous southern border does not make it our responsibility. So we have to be careful about pretending that an illegal action based on geographic laxness is also a morally justifiable action. There are certainly many heart-tugging reasons for wanting to let these people in and give them whatever they need. However, that still does not change the mathematical reality. My impulse to help others stops where mathematical reality begins. Texas and other states cannot support multiple thousands when they were not respected enough to be asked their thoughts about this and their available resources, and did not commit to funding this invasion. We have overcrowded schools that are already not doing everything for the students they have due to lack of funding. Hospitals are losing nurses because they're getting burned out. We mental health professionals often have waiting lists because we can't accommodate the amount of people who need our services either. America can't keep on pretending we have the resources to help these people when we obviously don't. Let's get our mathematical act together and acknowledge what our dollars and cents are able to do. All it takes is a calculator, a few minutes, and some courage. The fact that there's a homeless encampment 1 mile from where I live makes me quite nervous and angry. This makes me more prone to being a crime victim because I know the desperation that often drives crime. For this reason and others, my husband and I have thought about moving out of Illinois, despite the fact that we were both born and raised here, and we recognize a lot of good things about this state, and I have a lot of lovely memories attached to it. If Illinois doesn't want to see itself continue to circle the drain, I recommend it start considering what people want and need in the context of accurately considering the numbers and human nature. Illinois and California now remind me of a song lyric I heard years ago. Don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. The legal concept of expanded liability, which became introduced in our legal system in the 1960s, possibly portends that municipalities that allow illegal people to get and live here are going to be facing financial consequences, as they get sued for everything from people being a crime victim to an inadequate education for their children due to an overcrowded school system. Sure, they think it can happen here or it won't happen again, or it won't happen to them. Crime victims always think that way. So do targets of lawsuits. So do pregnant teenage girls. And so do drunk drivers who get caught. As the 12-step recovery movement says, denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Thank you again.
That does conclude our public comment. Hold on a second, please. I don't have it. I'm not denying you. I just don't have your names on my list here. So give me a minute. We'll get it organized. Yes.
Better way.
All right, it appears we have 4 more speakers. And we'll recognize them with your permission, as it's going to be more than a half an hour. I have to ask for your permission.
It's 24 minutes approximately right now we've spent.
All right, so we have a little bit more time, but we have speakers who are going to overextend that. So with the 4, that's 20 minutes, so it'll go over approximately 10 minutes. So am I all good? Everybody here is fine? Okay, thank you. Since I don't have your names on my list, but our recording secretary does, we'll have her call up each name separately.
The next person I have is Gal Jazinczak. We have a Gal Jazinczak in the audience. Okay, next name then I have is Jonathan Gripe.
Thank you. Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for the time to speak today. I'm John Gripe from St. Charles. Of all the issues of which I have spoken in this chamber, this one frightens me the most. The migrant problem is already a Kane County problem, and before it gets worse, the board needs to make a very clear and ironclad protocols to help the county and its defenseless cities protect themselves. I am confused that the agenda says update on Kane County's established protocols regarding migrant buses. To my knowledge and that of several friends and some board members I have asked, there are no existing protocols. Sounds like someone trying to look prepared when they aren't. Here's why this single issue frightens me more than any. Picture this, a headline in the local papers that says Russian troops have landed in several Kane County towns. That's ridiculous, you say. The U.S. military would protect us. But in the case of migrants, their troops have been shown the welcome mat by our president, governor, and the mayor of Chicago. So here we sit in Kane County, comfortable in our suburban cocoons, not realizing that this problem could bring destruction worse than any foreign army could. Most people don't understand the threat that faces us. I pray that you all will. You think I exaggerate? Well, consider this. Dr. Ashwin Vasan, Health Commissioner of New York City, has noted that Biden's border policies are producing contagious diseases not seen for decades. The 2.5 million recorded migrant encounters at the U.S.-Mexican border just in 23 represents an all-time high. These people came from 160 exotic countries, most with terrible healthcare standards. Now illegal immigrants are driving a resurgence of rare diseases once extinct in the United States. Prime example, polio. In 22, a New York man was paralyzed by polio, likely originating from another country. The last previous confirmed polio case in New York was 1990. Tuberculosis. TB has now been confirmed in every neighborhood in New York City, with 88% of cases from people born outside the US. Florida has seen a 21% increase in TB since Biden was elected. Texas border counties have triple the national average rate for TB. But the list doesn't stop there. Chickenpox. Chickenpox outbreaks have ripped through migrant shelters in multiple states. Measles, declared eliminated in the US back in 2000, has been brought back into the US. Malaria has been reported by a Maryland resident who contracted it from someone who got it outside the US and brought it into the country. Leprosy is now an endemic in the southeastern United States. Leprosy previously affected mainly persons who had immigrated from leprosy endemic areas. And this is just the potential health problems. Doesn't address the possibility of these folks bringing weapons into our country. Yes, no one checks for that. And no one performs background checks on any of the migrants like those done on any visitor applying for residency. Where could this go? As we enter a season of election campaigning, many candidates love to have flyers touting their accomplishments. If this issue is handled badly, some of you might have a list of notable legacy items for your flyer, like helped introduce diseases into Kane County, resulting in terrible health problems and uncontrollable healthcare spending, or led military-age personnel into Kane towns to establish new underground violence cells, or created huge strain on county resources, housing, unemployment, and crime control. What a terrible legacy. What could be done to protect your constituents? Here's what one mayor, who happens to be a Democrat, did for his community. Mayor Sam Josie stated that he turned a bus full of immigrants sent to his city back because local police, quote, did not know if any of those 40 individuals were carrying weapons and they couldn't be identified. And this is a major, quote, security risk. It's a health risk, and we're not just going to tolerate that. Josie, who plans to send migrants back to the border, also stated he doesn't want to pawn problems off on other mayors. Admirable. Even the small town of Elburn is way ahead of this county. They already have an ordinance. Their ordinance, like most of the ordinances passed in the other suburbs, require buses dropping off migrants to have a permit. Elburn demands 5 days advance notice of bus arrival, background checks on migrants on board, and establishes their metro stations as the designated drop-off zones. If those terms are violated, the bus company will be fined $750 per passenger. In closing, some of you may just consider this a nuisance and not a big deal. But this single issue could catastrophically impact our county for years to come. Please stop this problem before it gets worse. Don't just rely on the cities, towns, and villages to handle this. Stand up for Kane County.
Ms. Meir, you're next. Janine? Meyer.
Jean Meyer, Christian, patriotic American. And I just want to thank you guys for always being willing to give us more minutes than half an hour. Thank you for listening. And I had to make a comment on Sylvia from Argentina. And I love all people too. I'm a Christian. They're all made in the image of God. And I think about the suffering that they undergo. I think about friends of ours that have lived their whole life trying not to make too much money so they could get their subsidies, and they've retired and they live so poorly. And those immigrants could, again, be that same status. So we need family, and everything that you guys do, we should consider how we can enable the family to be strengthened and take care of its needs, because that's the best place to get our care. Anyway, on our open borders, immigration. If we do not know history, we are doomed to repeat it. repeating, if we do not know history, we are doomed to repeat it. A world history that is full of slavery. It may not have been called that, but masses of people who worked hard in a hand-to-mouth existence, not like we have it here. They had violence and they had want of basic needs, and that was their lot. My father was born in 1917. He loved and taught history, and he taught me this. My mother, born in 1920, fought valiantly and intelligently against the New World Order, a global government, always in the attempt to be made throughout history. So this isn't something new. From the beginning of time, men wanted to control the world. But this New World Order in which the worldwide masses are merged into one socioeconomic status. This will not be the level of middle-class American. We, the peasants, we will be leveled to what Mexico and China have as a level of living. Do you want this for the next generation? We continue this process of globalization with our open border policies. Reading my Bible and reading history, we learn that allowing foreigners in uncontrolled numbers is a serious threat to the nation they settle. For example, when enough Europeans came to our country, it became a new country, changing forever the culture that was there. And yet I praise God for this country that has given unheard of freedoms and the chance to prosper if we work hard for any skin color. To keep my beloved country and allow for people from other countries to come here in controlled immigration and prosper, we must stop this open border, which is being allowed on purpose for our country's destruction. Let's not be foolish. Hopefully, this Kane County Board will drop the Republican, Democratic titles which come before our country. Let's stop. We're Americans. We love our country. We don't love a party. That's garbage. We need you to be statesmen concerned about the next generation, not politicians concerned about the next election. Chicago Mayor Johnson and Denver Mayor Johnston never stated the primary issue here is letting people unvetted pour into this country. A national security threat should be at all levels of government. This is what we should be considering. Unvetted, we do not know if these people are violent criminals or if they have the latest released pandemic in them or antibiotic resistant TB. TB is not like it used to be. We live in an antibiotic resistant country. I'm a nurse. I have a master's degree. It wasn't good 20 years ago and it's worse now. We force vaccines on our citizens, and that is a no-go. Tell them to stay home from large holiday events and mask. Then we turn thousands of illegal immigrants into crowded cities to be cared for at our expense. I hope you can see the inconsistency here. This is not politicians who really care about us, the masses. Chicago and Denver's mayors say that the issue is not the number of immigrants, but they need a plan and money from the federal government. A fool despises wisdom and instruction. Is it okay with you board members if we keep printing money at the federal level, fueling inflation and the collapse of our government? The county holding out its hands for grant money from the federal government, not caring what the end result is as long as we get money. We, this country, need to resist taking immigrants, illegal immigrants, refuse federal and state money, demand these immigrants be sent home. Uncontrolled, unvetted immigration in the end will not help these immigrants who are honest, nonviolent, and have skills. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for all of our speakers.
No, you didn't.
We have one more.
Michelle Betek.
Michelle.
Michelle Betek, St. Charles. Back in November early, Ann Vanderseel came to speak at the public hearing and warned of many of the same topics that we are talking today, that she believed She's stationed down at the border, witnessing the migration every single day of millions of people that have come into the country in the last 3 years. And she warned Kane County Public Health Committee of the upcoming problem that these governors and these mayors of sanctuary cities would be sending large groups to our county in short order. She also was very convincing and very assured that all of the counties in our country, 3141, I believe, have sleeper cells already placed in each county. I believe Cheryl Strathman did not believe that this was in her jurisdiction or in the county board's jurisdiction to have ordinances or regulations or a stance on this topic. And as we're seeing in short order, this is happening at a very quick pace. Within 24 hours, 11,000, almost all migrant males flowed into Eagle Pass, Texas in a 24-hour period, and there's more on the way every day. Among them are undoubtedly hardcore criminals, murderers, sex deviants, and terrorists. If you've been following the story for the last 3 years, many single 20-something healthy males have been crossing the borders. This is frightening for all of Kane County citizens. Doesn't man the party. And I would recommend an emergency board meeting. That was a very good suggestion, because we are at the brink of receiving these people at a very quick pace in short order here. Just to give a quick story, last week, my 18-year-old niece was at Meyer grocery store in Geneva on Randall Road at 5:30 p.m. getting gas. And she was approached by she thought a migrant woman who was in a minivan and couldn't speak English very well, but wanted help getting gas. My daughter, I told her the story. She said, I would have helped her. She said, no, I'm not going to help you. The woman kept on and very, very persistently kept asking for help getting gas. And finally, the woman got very angry, jumped into the car, and noticed a male was driving the van, sped off. She did contact the police department. Police department was angry that she didn't call immediately. She called after she got on the road. But, you know, we're hearing stories across Kane County and across the state of these not so isolated incidences that are happening. And this will continue to grow with the Elburn situation, with Rockford receiving a 300+ amounts on an airplane. This will continue to grow. As a speaker said online, no one would invite someone they don't know into their home. No one would. And that's what we're doing. They're not vetted. They don't have the same, they're coming illegally, number one. The government's allowing this. President Biden can shut this tomorrow by saying one single word or 2 words, shut it down. And it basically would happen. This is very intentional. This is dangerous. And we need you to, as representatives of the Kane County Board, to take action on this immediately, to have a stance and to protect our citizens. Thank you.
All righty, we are now on to our monthly financials. Kathleen?
Good morning. The report today that I'm giving is very similar to the report that I gave last week at Finance Committee. We'll start off with the highlights of the general fund, the fund that we historically can't balance. So as you know, we keep our books open for about 6 to 7 weeks after the close of the fiscal year as invoices continue to be submitted for payment. As of today, and so these are estimates, and these numbers are old because I prepared this slide presentation 2 weeks ago. So we are looking at about 113 million in expenses and 106 in revenue. So my estimate is that when all is said and done, we will have anywhere between a $6 and an $8 million loss for 2023 in our general fund, which is something that hasn't happened in many years. Next slide. Some highlights of select tax revenues. Sales tax, local use tax, RTA sales tax, the state income tax, the personal property replacement tax, and then the state motor fuel tax and county motor fuel tax. And I have these color coded, so yellow is generally within range. And we're comparing the actual revenues to both budget and to the prior year. So interestingly enough, the personal property replacement tax, for short, it's called PPRT. It is above budget, but below last year. And I'll talk a little bit about more about the PPRT in a second. And here's a graph of these key revenues. And as you can see, the two green lines are the state motor fuel tax and the county motor fuel tax, pretty consistent over time. In 2018 is when the state increased the motor fuel tax, which is kind of the big jump. And then shortly after that, we had COVID start. So there was a big drop, but then it recovered. The red and the blue lines at the top are the two sales taxes, which, as you can see, they kind of follow each other along, the red and the blue. And then the yellow lines at the bottom is the local use tax revenue. Next page. To highlight these key select tax revenues, where do they go? What do they fund for the county? So the sales tax goes into the general fund. The local use tax goes into the general fund. The state income tax and the PPRT go into the general fund. The RTA sales tax per county policy is allocated across 4 different funds: the general fund, the transportation sales tax fund, which is part of KDOT, and the public safety sales tax fund and the judicial technology fund, which are essentially used for technology and sheriff's vehicles for our public safety and judiciary functions. And then the state motor fuel tax and the county motor fuel tax are used for KDOT because they are restricted funds. They cannot be used. The motor fuel tax revenue can't be used for anything other than our transportation department. Next slide. The local government distributive fund. The state takes a portion of the state income tax, local use tax, and the state cannabis tax and puts it into a fund that's called the Local Government Distributive Fund. And then it's distributed to local governments based on population across the state. And this, over the last couple of years, the portion of the state income tax that the state is putting into this fund prior to distribution to local governments has increased. You can see on the chart, the state income tax is broken into 3 categories. And on the chart below, this is the money that the county is getting from the local government distributive fund, the income tax portion, local use tax portion, and the state cannabis tax. You can see that it's starting to come in. We were actually getting it prior to this spring, but as we've talked about before, until there were at least 5 dispensaries in our county, we were not allowed to report the state cannabis tax and our local cannabis tax separately, publicly. So when we have received that money, it has just been recorded as part of our local, as part of our sales tax, essentially. But now that we have, as of the spring of 2023, now that we have 5 dispensaries, we can report this separately to our board. So you can see the state cannabis tax coming in now. Next page.
Yes, Mr. Surges.
Ms. Hopkinson, if you go back one slide, the little red percentage, can you translate that into an approximate dollar?
So I've got a couple pages from now, I've got a slide that shows that. It's a very small, it's like
Or down,
$7,000. It's like $7,000 a month. It's not a lot. We get, yeah, we get much more from our local cannabis tax revenue. So, okay, next page, next page, next page. There we go. PPRT. Wanted to put all the information out there just because it's interesting. So the state distributes the PPRT to local governments based on an estimate every year. And if you look at the chart below, we saw a significant increase in the PPRT that we received in 2022, and that's now going down. And in my little write-up there, I explain what is on the state's website, that they overestimated, and they're now making some adjustments. So the PPRT revenue that is coming to local governments is not as much as it was a couple years ago. Next page. So this is both the state and the county cannabis tax revenue, and we receive the taxes. Most of our sales taxes, we receive 2 months after they're collected. So they're collected at retail, then they're submitted by the retailer to the state, and then the next month, the state submits it to the local government. So the blue lines are the sales tax revenues from the county cannabis tax, which is at 3.75%, which is the max right now allowed. And this is on, this tax is collected in unincorporated areas in Illinois. And so we're receiving about $120,000 a month. And that is all going into our general fund. And then these state cannabis tax is the little red, and it's very small. It's about $7,000 a month. And that is the state cannabis tax revenue is going into a fund, which is overseen by our sheriff's office, and by state statute, that money can only be used for law enforcement purposes. And next page, just an update on where we are with our collective bargaining agreements. We have 15. Just in the last month or two, we've settled 3, the sheriff's civilians, the circuit clerks, and KingCom. So all of those, they're right at the bottom. They recently settled. We still have some contracts that are expired and in negotiations. The ones that are that are shaded in the red are over a year old and have not been settled, and there will most likely be retro. The one that we just the ones that we just settled for both sheriff civilians and KingCom, we had retro payments back to the beginning of the year that we're just now processing. Next page. And a quick shout out to the payroll staff at King County with all of the year-end changes and the union contract, because we really had 3 union contracts settle within the last month, plus all the new updates for tax purposes and healthcare deductions for 2024. They worked Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of this holiday weekend. They were here working to get all this stuff entered. So this next page is just, again, I'm going to start including more trend analysis, more history. This is total salaries, including overtime by county office and department. This is gross salaries. It does not include reimbursements, and this is for all funds. So the general fund and all of our special revenue funds. Most notably, I like to always point out our court services department, which is our adult probation officers, our juvenile detention. They're about half, a little bit more than half of their salaries are reimbursed by the state. So for 2023, we're ending around 10.5 million, close to 6 million of that is reimbursed by the state of Illinois. Next page. Energy costs. So this is utilities, fuel, internet services. Generally, surprisingly, interestingly, are more or less flat over 10 years. And then just some highlights on what's going on in the finance department and purchasing and payroll. We are finishing, even though the 2024 budget was adopted in November, we have to put together a book with all sorts of graphs and charts. We're working on that. We hope to have that done by the end of this month, and everybody will receive a hard copy. We've already started working on our annual audit, fiscal 2023. It includes some new accounting pronouncements that we have to implement, most notably, perhaps capitalizing software costs. So we're going to be sending out a request to all the departments to ask for copies of all their software contracts. Forecasting, once we get Adaptive Insights renewed, I think it's on the agenda today. I'm going to start working with the transportation department to start utilizing that software. And 2025 budget, I know people have already started talking to me about the 2025 budget. And I think, you know, based on what we went through last year, we want to do it sooner rather than later. So look for some updates probably in the next, probably very shortly within the next month on a schedule for the 2025 budget. And purchasing, the responsible bidders ordinance is now up. And if you scroll up a little bit to the previous page, there's now a red box on the purchasing homepage for any bidders who are responding to a bid that is for public works projects. They have to submit additional documentation now. And so there's a little portal where they can click on that and then upload all of their documents. So we have that up and running. And I think I'm going to leave it there if anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions, Ms. Hopkinson? No, I would like to commend you on the report. It's very thorough, well appreciated. And also, I would like, if any of you happen to be going down, strolling down the first floor, just to give a shout out to purchasing, because they literally gave up a full weekend, a holiday weekend, to do their reporting. So that I think is admirable. And it's a testimony to our devoted employees here at Kane County to get all that loaded in. And the impact of that will be that they're able to get their correct compensation in their payroll for their checks. So they worked very hard during that period of time. So it's much appreciated. Thank you, Kathleen.
And I'll just add one more thing on the reports in your packet. We've added this last finance report, we're adding more didetailed, more history of all the department budgets. And the feedback that I'm hearing is everybody likes those. So if anybody else has any other feedback, please let me know. But we will probably discontinue with some of the reporting of how it used to be done and just continue with the more detailed, more historical, that contains more trend analysis reporting for all the departments. Everyone seems to like that. So
I would agree. Okay, it's much clearer. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Mann.
Good morning. So in December, we worked on McHenry County actually reached out to us for a joint release regarding the $1 million allocation by McHenry County towards eliminating the toll on the Long Meadow Parkway Bridge. So we helped push that out for them. Along with Kane County Connects and social media, we are also working on an update on the Kane County government homepage. So please look for that. It's a work in progress. Obviously, adjustments can be made if a review is necessary. I attended meetings in Elburn and Aurora regarding restrictions on drop-off of migrants and also pushed out a press release after a meeting with Kane County and local leadership of communities, villages, and cities regarding guidance on handling migrants and getting them to Chicago if they unexpectedly end up in our county. I also wanted to mention that along with Mr. Berman, on a happier note, Kane County does celebrate its birthday on January 16th, so we can all celebrate that. And if I can have my slide up on the screen, the first of many. Yeah, okay, that's for you to decide, Mr.
Yeah.
Surges.
Mr. Surges, you're catching up, so don't, come on.
Okay, and I decided my New Year's resolution was to be grateful for the people that are in this county that help everybody, and that's my first public information office shout out to Blair Peters, who is, as everyone knows, an amazingly dedicated employee. He has helped, like others, he's helped me so many times with groundbreakings and ribbon cutting, standing out in the cold and in the heat and in the rain. Always willing to go that extra mile. So I'd like to offer my gratitude to him today in my first public information shout out. Thank you, Blair. Anybody has any questions?
Any questions? And again, her office is welcoming to any new news bits that you may have that's going on in your district. So please don't hesitate to share that information with her so we can share it with our public. Both good and interesting news. So is there any old business? Yes, sir.
Madam Chair Surges, I'm not sure that this is the appropriate place to bring it up, but this solar field topic, I've shared at least with Madam Chair and a few other board members, that I did receive a few phone calls from mayors up at the north end regarding a solar field application that's coming through the county on Huntley Road, west of Randall, east of Galligan. And the argument or the concern from those mayors was point blank. We have spent millions, quite literally, of dollars creating this Long Meadow Parkway in a master plan that connects the village of Huntley all the way through to the other side of Route 25. And choices were made at that time to make Huntley Road and Long Meadow the corridor rather than Route 72, whose bridge is pretty constricted. And those mayors have expressed that we didn't go to that effort to have that prime corridor turned into a solar field. And my response to them was, I didn't mean to sound emblazoned or smart aleck, but my response was, feel free to annex that land and do what you will with it. However, we are hogtied, if you will, handcuffed with these 7 rules that came from the state. And if they clear those 7 rules, I don't know how we stop that. I've really sat quietly on many of these conversations with this, but this one really resonates with me because of the amount of infrastructure that's been put into Huntley Road. And John, I don't know how that plays into anything, but when you master plan an area and then get thrown a curveball at the last second, it just doesn't seem appropriate. And I just wanted to voice that concern, at least to the executive committee. I'm not trying to make a political, stance here or anything, but those mayors resonate with me on their concerns. And I just at least wanted to voice that here. And I have spoken with Mr. Ford from development. I've spoken with Mr. Davist. I've spoken with Madam Chair. And so I just want to articulate that to this body. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that information. Perhaps we can ask the mayors to come, whether they can speak publicly, online, at one of our appropriate meetings, so they can share this information. It would be wonderful to have their voices here at the table. Is there anything else? No? All right. So now we're going on to new business, and Scott has taken the helm of emergency management and was given a very quick learning curve as we are going through this situation with these migrants, asylum seekers, or immigrants, whichever term you'd like to use, who are appearing throughout Illinois and now in Kane County. So he has been quick up to speed with this, and again, very very much like our other employees, has stepped up to the plate, giving up his holiday weekends, working 24/7. His phone is always on to address an issue, has come up with an appropriate measured response to these migrants, and he has worked in tandem with Sheriff Hain, who also has a protocol in place to handle these individuals. I was hoping that Mr. Hain would be here, but not. I can share with you that he spoke very well on WGN yesterday in an interview about his protocol. I would invite you all to Google that, to listen to it. He has gotten some buses from a local school district, which he has complete access to, as well as his staff is on 24/7 call in case that is needed. But I will let Scott further articulate what those plans are. There are legitimate plans in place for Kane County, and we will seek if a mayor calls us with an issue, or if an issue is known to us, Scott will be there as quickly as humanly possible to address and to support this. So Scott, please.
Thank you. Good morning. First, I'd like to start off with some facts just to give you the situation. So as you may know, the state of Texas has been busing apparent asylum seekers to Chicago, New York, Washington, Denver, and possibly other major U.S. cities. In Illinois, the only landing zone is in Chicago, where there are shelters and services being provided. These are funded by the state of Illinois, I presume the city of Chicago. This whole thing has been going on for about 17 months. For most of that period, it's mostly been affecting Chicago, maybe in the news, but it wasn't largely seen outside of the city of Chicago. In December, really about mid-December, buses began arriving at metro stations throughout the suburbs, including the counties of Cook, DuPage, Lake, McHenry, Will, Kankakee, and Kane. There have been 2 charter planes, one landing at O'Hare a week or 2 ago, and one on December 31st in Rockford, where asylees boarded buses chartered by the state of Texas and were taken to Chicago or the Chicago area. In Kane County, we received 9 buses between December 19th and the 23rd, and they came to mostly Aurora, I believe one in Elburn and a couple in Elgin. And then after that, none until December 31st, a bus arrived in Elgin. So these 10 buses had about 300 passengers in total. Sometimes a handful of the passengers already have rides arranged and they leave with family or friends. All of this is apparently funded and coordinated by the state of Texas with little to no notice of exactly where the buses will arrive. Sometimes we get a tip off that there's a certain number of buses heading to the area, but we don't know which suburbs that they'll stop in. Since December 1st, the suburbs have received more than 150 buses, and all but a handful have arrived at train stations where bus personnel either already have tickets or they purchase them upon arrival. There, in the first days of this, there were a couple snafus where the people that were supposed to have money to pay for the tickets didn't have money, and a couple of the municipalities paid the tickets to have the people move onto the train. But largely that is dried up, and all of our information says that the bus companies arrive and they either have tickets in hand or they purchase them upon arrival, and they're also timing their arrivals very closely with the trains. So they're not waiting around very long, typically 15 to 30 minutes at a maximum, and they're on the train on their way to Chicago. The vast majority of the asylum seekers board the next train to Chicago with their ultimate destination at the Chicago landing zone. So our role in the Office of Emergency Management has been information and coordination. We're in contact with the other counties' emergency management and then some of the larger suburban cities, as well as the Cook County and Chicago. So we're coordinating when we know that a busload gets on a train. We're notifying the Chicago Office of Emergency Management that there's, let's say, 30 people and they got on the 10 a.m. train. They'll arrive in Chicago Union Station at 11:30 or whatever the time is, and then they handle the rest. They are somehow directing them to the place that they need to go. So that's kind of been our role. is just collecting that information and then sharing it with our local partners. A lot of times we don't even get word that there's a bus until after they're gone. A lot of times that's happening from the Metro train operations people, which is typically your conductors. And they're notifying the Metro Police Department, who is part of our group, and then they're notifying us. That's what happened in Elgin on the 31st. They noticed the people get on the bus, they gave us a count, and then we notified Chicago that they were coming, and then we notified the state because as they're tracking everything. To my knowledge, to this point, there's been no reported impacts to public safety in terms of disturbances or the police needing to be called or any of that stuff. Like I said, in the early days in Aurora, there was a snafu with needing to get tickets for the people. But since then, it's been pretty seamless on that transition. It's been pretty quick and seamless. In a couple cases outside of our county, the buses were delayed for whatever reason and arrived after hours when trains were no longer running. And a couple different ways that they were handled. One, we were able to get buses into the landing zone if we call ahead and they're police escorted. So I believe it was in Lake County. They had a bus that came in after the last train for the day, and they made arrangements, and then they had the local police department followed the bus down to the landing zone, dropped them off, and came back. There was another situation in McHenry County where the bus arrived and the bus left, and there were no trains. They left them outside, and the local police and Metro Police made arrangements that got them inside of the train station building. Though there were no trains, they got them inside, and they left on the next train that morning. So like I said, those instances happen in other counties. All 10 of the buses that arrived in Kane County, they arrived while trains were running, and the passengers boarded the train apparently without any difficulty. In the rare case that passengers are ever left somewhere away from a train station or after hours and there are no trains arrive or running, Sheriff Hayne has established a task force of 13 deputies and supervisors that have access to buses and drivers 24/7. They're available to either respond. So if people were dropped off at a gas station or somewhere away from a train station, they could take the people to the nearest train station and get them on the train and on their way. If there are no trains running, then they could put them on the bus so they could stay warm, and they would wait with them until the next train. The task force is staying inside of Kane County. They won't leave the county. And that's basically the options and the situation to date. I've been working on, we've verbally shared, and I've spoken at many meetings to this point, and we've shared the options of what has to happen. So all of our municipalities are contacting me if they get a bus, and then I'm coordinating, informing Chicago and informing the state. And I won't get into the details, but that's the way it works for now. And it's been working fine. I've been putting in those extra hours, but that's okay. That's my job. But I am working on a more detailed plan, which basically just puts what I've just said into writing, that for the most part, buses arrive and the people get on the next train without any intervention needed. And like I said, sometimes without even with authorities even knowing that they're there. In the rare case that some intervention is needed because they're left stranded, then the two options that we've made available are you can drive them down to the landing zone yourself, or you can call the sheriff's bus task force and we will put them on the bus and keep them warm until the next train. And those are basically the two options. So I've got something that I'm ready to give out to the police department so that everyone's on the same page. And I think that they are. We've been, I'll say, lucky that we've only had 10. DuPage County has by far got the most. And the other counties, Will and McHenry and Lake, probably more closer to us. I think Will maybe in the teens, and Lake and McHenry probably a few less than that. So that's basically all I have to offer, and I can answer questions if you have some.
Are there any questions? Mr. Surges?
First off, thank you for your dedication to this. Can you help me? I've got two specific questions. The notion of a sanctuary city. I understand that there is some declaration at some level that Chicago made. That does not go beyond the city of Chicago. And here in Kane County, we are not considered a sanctuary in city or location. And and this becomes so difficult because the calls that I've been receiving for the past 10 days, which kind of, maybe the Elburn thing, accentuated it at the end here, crescendoed. But I don't see anybody dropping off people in a cornfield in unincorporated Kane County.
No.
So they're either going to a village or a city that has transportation. But I do think that we need at our level to make sure that we make a public statement that we are not the sanctuary place. Okay? And I'm not doing that to grandstand, please. And then you use the term the Chicago landing zone. That's a I've not heard that before. What is that?
That's what they're calling it. I don't know if that's an official term, but that's the place where.
Is there a formal place
There-
where people are
There is.
pushing all these folks there?
They're arriving there. There's a shelter there, and that's where they receive service. My understanding is that's where they have screenings. I understand that they're supposed to have gotten a screening at the border before they enter the country or shortly after, and that in that landing zone they receive additional screening, and they are able to apply for a work permit and all, and I don't know all what else, but there's services are provided by the Illinois Department of Human Services, and that's where the process happens, and then there's sheltering going on there, and I think other locations, and so that's where all that happens. Beyond that, I don't really know what goes on, and nor am I an expert in immigration or any of that stuff. Here in Kane County, we're really just dealing with the spillover. And some of this is because some of the regulations in Chicago of when and where they'll accept the buses, and the bus company's answer to that was, okay, we'll just go to the suburbs and drop them off. And I think they're going closer, like in DuPage and closer to the city, because it's probably more easier to make the drop-offs there. These bus companies are driving, it's roughly a 24 to 30-hour drive, depending on how often you stop. And the efficiency of that, I think the drivers and the people on the bus, after they make their drop-off, they want to get back, and they're just keep going back and forth, and they're going all over the country. We're just seeing this little piece of it, and we're just left to pick up the pieces.
Madam Chair, this is just such a complex and confusing issue that at least for me and my family, you don't have to go back to my grandparents who were all immigrants, both on my German side and Italian side. So to me, this is, I am not so separated from this, but they came through Ellis Island, and they're documented. There's no question there. My other comment, which I've made to you and I continue to make to others, there's two groups here that I'm most concerned with, and both of them are children. Our children and their children. And these children are innocent. And while I want to protect us and do everything the right way, I equally, as a Christian, I want to make sure that we're reaching out to these children in a way to help. So this is not my decision here today, but my encouragement to everybody is that we find a way to do this right. And I don't necessarily know what right is, since we're not the end all be all. I'm understanding this is a federal level problem that's exasperated by a state level, that's exasperated by a sanctuary city in Chicago. And what does hokey little Kane County have to do with this? Well, we're talking children here. So, I mean, I'm hoping that as a collective, we are smart enough to figure something out. And sir, I thank you again for your thankless job that you're embarking on, because you're going to get yelled at both ways, and any way that we can help, we want to, but it's the protection of us and our children, but to reach out in the benevolence for these other children. So
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yes, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Williams here. You know, I'm not on this committee, but I do have Elburn in my district, and I received several calls from village officials within hours after this drop-off happening. And the village did, in my opinion, a Herculean job to address so that this doesn't happen in the future, and I applaud them for that. And I think that's something that we should model at the county level, because we're forgetting that there is a metro station that is an unincorporated Kane County at LaFox. I mean, that's in my district as well. If you go to the LaFox station, there's no services there. It's in the, not in the middle of nowhere, but it's a good half-mile walk to get to anything other than the few residents in downtown LaFox. And I'm sure those residents don't want migrants wandering through their community, nor do I think that's good for these human beings that are being shipped into our area. So I think we need to take a look at passing an ordinance similar to what we did, what Elburn did, so that your office is notified, because I'm afraid a busload's going to come to LaFox and be dropped off, and nobody's going to know. There's no warming shelter there. There's nothing. So it's very important that we do something. I would also echo Mr. Surgis's comments. I don't need to repeat them, but he's spot on. We need to address this. We need to be proactive, because this issue isn't going away. So thank you.
Thank
Like, I
you.
was being facetious about the cornfield. I didn't know there was an undetected.
Oh, yes,
station.
there
There's-
is one. The one thing, and then I will recognize you, sir, that the LaFox train station, because I have asked, has no kiosk to be able to purchase tickets. So the only way you'd be able to purchase a train ticket is to get onto the train. And all of the people who have tickets purchased for them, so that's one ticket per person as they enter onto the train. So this would not be an appropriate spot for them to board the train, since there are no tickets available to purchase before you get on the train. So, but I understand your point, but that's.
We know
technicality.
that, but a bus driver from Texas probably does not.
I would not argue, I'm not arguing with him, just it's a fact. In a second, please. Yes.
I'm not on the committee,
Yes,
so
I
I
know,
think
but-
committee people should go first.
All right, that'll be perfect. I think this is kind of everyone, you opened up a Pandora's box. It needs to be discussed. And then
Davis raising his hand also, even though I can't find the button for it.
hold down there. Yes, Ms. Molina, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I agree with everybody that this is a really complex issue. It's not an issue that we're going to be able to handle on our own. I think it's important to review what other cities have done, or other ordinances have happened. The city of Chicago passed an ordinance back on, I think, December 13th, and that's kind of what's dominoed into us receiving these buses, because they were told not to receive the buses. So, you know, we're not an island. So whatever happens somewhere else is gonna, you know, we're gonna get a piece of whatever's happening. So the discussion needs to happen. I'd like to make sure we're including nonprofits and other organizations who are willing to help in situations in case we do end up with a bus that, you know, or a group of people who aren't able to be transported to the landing zone where they are being processed, where they are going through where they want to go, because if they're seeking asylum, they need to go through a certain process. Similar to Ellis Island, Chicago has now become a landing zone for these asylum seekers. That's where they want to go, and that's where we want to make sure they get there safely. So I think including in our ordinance, we should have some sort of plan, and, you know, in case it does happen, we have a group of people who are willing to help. And, you know, helping Scott with the Office of Emergency Management, maybe getting him some more volunteers, I think would be an important step. So if we are going to be discussing this, I'd like to open it up and invite some of those members who I think would be willing participants in assisting with the situation.
Absolutely. Yes, Ms. Gumbs?
Thank you, Madam Chair Gumbs. So I also attended the City of Aurora's meeting when they had the buses arrive there. This is a complex issue, but there's a few things that I want to address from my perspective. One of those is the people that are arriving on the bus are asylum seekers. They have
Please,
The
please.
process is being followed by the states that are busing those individuals here. They're following that process, and what has happened is they're trying to sidestep the process. Point A is where they're starting. They go through that process at the beginning, and they're supposed to end up at point C, which is in Chicago. And when Chicago said, we want notification of when you're going to be here, and the southern state says, well, we're just going to drop them off on the side of the road, which actually has happened. That's when Chicago said, we're not going to let you do that. So all these municipalities have had this conversation about creating ordinances. The purpose of the ordinance is this. This is the way I see it. The purpose of the ordinance is to stop individuals that are driving asylum seekers from dumping them on the side of the road or in a place that is not their destination. That is the purpose of the ordinance. The ordinance is not saying we don't want asylum seekers. The ordinance has nothing to do with all of those other issues that frankly are outside of our control because our Congress hasn't voted in more than 2 decades on this issue. But we still have to address this at our local level. I just want to make clear that that is the point and the purpose of the ordinance, to stop people from dropping human beings on the side of the road with no resources. That's the purpose. I believe we should mirror those ordinances and take a look at them. So we also have a tool here in Kane County that stops that from happening from a human level. I think it's horrible. There's a process, follow the process. We have no problem with that. I also want to address the sanctuary city language. It's not a legal term. There are people that declare themselves sanctuary cities, but in my history of 50 years working in law enforcement, sanctuary city has been hijacked, in my opinion. Local law enforcement are not federal law enforcement. That's a separation. So when people say they are a sanctuary city, it means we are not acting, this is my opinion, they're not acting as federal agents because they're not authorized to do so. When working at the Aurora Police Department, we were not restricting immigration from doing their job. They have warrants that are available for individuals that are here. All that stuff happens. There is a process. In Aurora, a local law enforcement officer, and pretty much everywhere USA, does not have the right to ask an individual for their immigration status. That is a federal distinction. Okay, it is literally 2 different agencies. Now, are we going to be able to fix that here? No, that's a federal issue and they will not vote. So I understand everybody's frustration. It's an extremely complex conversation here, but these individuals in Washington will not vote. So we have to express that them not only as residents, as local municipalities. We need to fix that part of it before we can do anything else because it's just a Band-Aid. I think everybody is on the same page, honestly.
Okay, order, please.
I believe that when you look at the distinction between somebody who crosses the border not lawfully and somebody who's seeking asylum, those are 2 very distinct issues.
Order, please. Please.
It doesn't matter really what I say. These are my opinions, and I'm opening up the dialogue to have this conversation because there's a lot of things that we cannot control at this level. What we do need to control is taking care of human beings. And we can't allow anyone to dump a human being on the side of the road with their children and no clothes. We can't do that here in Kane County because we are better than that.
Please, please. Third warning,
Kane
please,
County is
with all
better than
courtesy.
that. So whatever we need to do to get there, then let's have that conversation, but please do not convolute the ordinance purpose. And that is to stop people from dumping human beings on the side of the road or wherever they want. We're better than that.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Davos.
Davis, thank you. I concur with virtually everything I've heard from my colleagues, and I applaud the efforts of the sheriff's office and emergency management for having protocols. I think it is essential that we elevate that from the perspective of the county position and memorialize, our support of those, so that they're not just protocols, but our official position. Let there be no doubt for anybody, further down this path or above us in the process that we are acquiescing and saying, oh, well, I guess if we have to, we'll take them. The safety of everyone involved, yes. The giving in to the idea that we will be part of the sanctuary, no. So and one of the details I think I heard in there was that there were a handful that were met by friends or family. I don't believe that we can allow that to happen either. That loses the, like a chain of evidence. We no longer have, any idea of where they're going or whether they'll be taken to the right place or again, dropped off on the side of the road somewhere. So I think that little detail needs to be included also, but we do need to move forward immediately with a resolution and on its way to an ordinance in support of moving these people with complete control to the areas in Chicago that have been designated, so that if they're going to be treated as asylum seekers, those protocols are all followed and they don't happen here in Kane County.
Thank you. Yes.
Roth here. I would ask, Scott, you had mentioned you were documenting the process. Once that's completed, or even the first draft, that gets passed on to all board members. So our voters, if they contact us, we can at least talk to the subject, because we are getting a lot more questions now.
Absolutely.
This is the hot button right now.
It is. It's a critical issue.
And it's going to change over time, and then we have a process that we get the updates.
That sounds.
Can I add a comment?
Oh, absolutely.
So, what I've understood, and again, we're getting this third, fourth, 10th hand. I don't know exactly, but what we're being told is that people are crossing the border and they've been coached to say the things to claim asylum. I'm not here to say that's correct or incorrect. It's not my role. But I believe that's what's going on, and that's how they're ending up here. And as you know, I was a police officer for 27 years, and I haven't forgotten everything that I know. But I know that the police cannot ask people or restrict their movement without probable cause. And it's been a while, but I believe Illinois has a law on the books that Illinois police are not allowed to ask immigration status. So when this bus comes and 4 people get off and they want to ride with family, number one, if we were even aware, or if the police were there and aware of it, I'm not sure they can restrict their movement. I think I would certainly defer to Sheriff Hain on this, but I think that would be putting those police officers in municipalities or the county, if it's the sheriff's office, at risk for civil damages. And as regardless of what you think about whether they should be here or shouldn't be here, the fact remains that we don't have the authority to question that. And certainly in my office, we don't have arrest authority. So like I said, we're just coordinating, but that's what's going on as I understand it.
Thank you, Scott. I have there's been a lot of conversation, and rightly so, about Kane County having an ordinance in place. And I've had approached, just when this first started, I approached Mr. Frank, and he shared with me that would be inappropriate for the county because we're not home rule. So I don't want to put you on the spot, John, at all, but I think it's important perhaps for a future meeting that you give the legal definition of why that may not be. We could do it, but there doesn't apparently have any meat to it. But again, not to put you on the spot today, but perhaps for next week's board meeting, you can give your legal rationale why and what we possibly can do. Because I'm hearing all of you, and I do not disagree that we have to have some kind of overreach um, or appropriately protocol in place to not deny the authority of our villages and our municipalities, but to formally share with them how we can support them. And we've done that now with the Office of Emergency Management and with the sheriff. But is there something else that we can do to have a little bit more authority on that? But that's in legal jurisdiction to be able to define that.
So Madam Chair.
Yes,
Surges again.
Surges.
So what, maybe what I'm hearing is that our only ability is to is to get in front of the buses. And am I hearing that the other municipalities have simply said, hey, bus, you just can't show up in the middle of the night and drop off. There are some fines that go with that.
Have now.
And am I hearing that there's some reason why we can't do that? And if we can, what are the steps? And can we get it on for next week's board meeting?
Could we, and let Mr. Frank speak, but it
I know-
is a complicated question, and I would
Are we pushed
prefer.
to get it on today to begin?
No, but I think we've opened up that can of worms right now. And I believe that Mr. Frank has heard that this executive committee is interested in having that further discussion. So I don't want to put him on the spot. So, but if you could help us out a little bit.
I say, oh, Frank, I think the question really comes down to what authority has the state granted to counties who are non-home rule. There is no explicit authority to do anything like this from the state. So traditionally speaking, Dillon's rule would tell you, and Dillon's is based on a case that says if you don't have either explicit or kind of reasonably determined implicit authority from the explicit, that you can't do it. So Elburn is in a situation where they're also non-home rule. I've reached out to their attorney. I can talk to you guys offline about their reasoning and their rationale. I respectfully disagree with their ability to do it as well, nor the same situation for you. I believe Mr. Burns in Geneva has also is of the belief that non-home rule, and I'm guessing that's in consultation with his counsel, non-home rule entities cannot make these sort of actions. And I kind of echo what Scott had indicated, which is state officials are not federal officials. They don't have probable cause simply to just ask for somebody's legal immigration status. You also can't just arrest somebody or detain them in like a la New York stop and frisk unless you have probable cause. So it's a situation where you are very hamstrung in what you can do. But like I've said a million times, I will look into every avenue and cranny that we can to try to help in this situation. We've already started working on that. But in the initial question that was asked of me is whether or not the county as a non-home rule entity has either explicit or implicit authority from the explicit. The answer is currently no.
Madam Chair.
Hold on, Mr. Williams, and I will recognize you. Is there anybody else who sits, because I've been reminded? Ms. Molina, please let the.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Rick. So I guess this kind of brings up the bigger question. We put this item as a discussion item, but we don't have all the information to discuss and make a proper recommendation. So I kind of think we put the cart before the horse, even though it's important to discuss it. Scott's given us an overview of what's occurred in the last few weeks. And I think I'd like him to take lead on, establishing the protocol and writing that you already have and working with our state's attorney to see what we can do. It's not going to be then a resolution, an ordinance. We can't do anything about the busing itself, but we can establish some sort of written protocol as to what King County, what the guidelines are in King County for this type of situation and have it written. Is that what I'm understanding, John?
Yes, I mean, I think everything that I've seen and heard from Scott, but also from the sheriff's department in the protocols they've established are about as good as you're going to get. And what I think they've done is an exceptional job. The only thing that's kind of hanging you guys up is the county board itself really has not much authority to do anything. You can do a proclamation in support of the sheriff, stuff like that. But as far as having any teeth, if you were to do a resolution, you would have a tough time enforcing it in court.
I think my biggest concern is that we just want to make sure that we're putting it out there, what our protocol is in case this happens, so that all of our citizens are understanding that if we do get a bus here, this is what the county's responsibility is and what the county's responsibility isn't. Just so that we're aware, because I don't think it's going to stop happening. Unfortunately, and I think anybody who does want to help can reach out to help in their individual, organizations. But as a county, I think we need to make sure we're establishing something, because this is just the beginning.
Madam Chair, are there other counties? I mean, we keep
Hold
talking
on,
about
please. Hold on a
municipalities.
second, please. Mr. Williams?
Mr. Tepe has
Oh,
his hand up. I'll
on Mr.
yield to-
Tepe? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with everybody that this is a matter of extreme importance. I think we should refer it to one of our committees, not stop the discussion necessarily right now, but I think we should refer it to one of our committees. I'm not sure whether legislative or judicial should get this one.
I would
or if
suggest
it should be a
judicial.
combination of that,
And
but we need to make sure that this is a sign so that we're not just talking about it and doing nothing.
well, I would agree. I would agree. So would go to Miss Molina because of the sheriff and Scott. So it would go under her committee. But I would like to have some in-depth analysis presented by legal, just for the full board, so that we all get a big understanding of what, because we only have a portion of the board here. And I would like the full board to be able to understand what our opportunities and limitations are of what we can do. And then perhaps by next week, Scott, you could have your protocol put together if you have that time.
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
I'll make it
Thank you.
today.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll stay in my lane. I'm an attorney, but so it's hard for me to remove that hat. But this issue is important enough that I would be comfortable pushing the boundaries. I'm sure the county code, to Mr. Frank's point, never really anticipated an issue like this. It's sort of an unprecedented issue we're facing. I would just urge you to look at our authority to regulate our county highways, since these buses are traveling over our county highways, and I'll be happy to talk with you offline.
Okay, county and state highways as well. Yeah. All right. And again, this was an update, and I knew it was going to lead into a discussion, as it should. So thank you very much, Scott, for the well-received update. And Mr. Frank, we look forward to hearing more from you next week. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, we are going into executive session, and with your approval, I'd like to move that before we get into our consent agenda, so that we can further our business. So please, Mr. Caius.
This is Caius. I would move that we move to closed session for 1, review of closed session minutes, 2, imminent and probable litigation, and 3, matters relating to a specific employee.
Strathman will second.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Strathman. Oh,
Madam Chair Gums,
yes, Ms. Gums.
if we might remind our audience to remove their personal
Oh,
belongings.
yes. And please, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, could you please take your coats and bags and briefcases with you? I would appreciate it. Thank you. Roll call.
Allen,
Allen, aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yeah.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Who's here?
Linder,
Here. Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
New Year.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe.
Yes.
Session.
We're now going into closed session.
All right, everybody online that is joining us in the closed session, please accept the invites. A reminder to those in the room that are also joined us digitally, you must also join the closed session before we can begin.
Happy New Year. Yeah, I just sent it.
Sir.
Yeah, well, I think it's, well, maybe it's not moving at all now. I texted Henry, our maintenance. You don't.
Also have an individual that has two devices logged into the meeting. You must have both devices also join.
It's only.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still missing one individual.
Just the, well, they couldn't drop it off in the field or at that one train station.
All right, is there anybody hearing my voice digitally that feels they should be in the closed session?
Well, I guess no harm.
Hi, Blair. This is Bill Leonard. I was wondering if you could let me into the closed session. My computer battery ran out. I went onto the phone and then I didn't get into closed session. I'm back on the computer now. So if you could, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Goodbye.
You advise it so computer science, so first year applicants, undergraduate admission rates, okay?
Wow, 43.7. Did you see that up there on top?
No.
Wow.
Huh.
I'm gonna see something here. Total admission,
Yeah.
overall admission.
Mm-hmm. It's very hard to get into, but this is what it is.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, maybe we have to reevaluate.
computer science programs are really hard.
Mr. Leonard, you're not on mute, just so you know, sir.
I just sent a text to Blair and asked him if he can let you back into closed session. I don't know if he'll see it, but I did text him and ask him to do that.
Thank you.
I got it. No.
You want to know, you want.
Wants to get up and stretch.
Somebody took me out of the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know who brought those.
Yeah, it's the birthday boy here. Yeah.
Turner's, thank you.
Turner's Bakery. I'll never listen for Vern.
There are no Buckners though. That's all I'm saying.
There is no Buckners.
I know.
So, yesterday.
All right, you are in open session.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back in open session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen present.
Bates,
Bates present.
Berman, Davis,
Davis present.
Ford,
Ford present.
Gums,
Gums here.
Caius,
Guys present.
Kenyon, Lewis,
Who was here?
Linder,
Under here.
Alina,
Molina present.
Sanchez,
Sanchez present.
Strathman,
Strathman here.
Surges,
Here.
Tepe,
That be here.
Huron.
Here.
Unicorn.
All right, very good. Welcome back. We are now on to our consent agenda and Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have two resolutions before you. One is authorizing the use of the ARPA funds. It's actually amending a previous resolution that authorized two staff members, and all we're doing is increasing the hourly pay from $25.82 to $31 an hour in order to be a little more competitive in the current market and ensure that we can hire and retain quality staff. The second resolution is also amending a previous resolution. One of our water projects, it was determined that it would be better coming out of the revenue recoupment fund. And so this resolution is just amending it so that the money comes out of the revenue recoupment fund rather than the direct ARPA spend.
All right, are there any questions on this?
Caius would second. Was that a motion?
Second, oh, yes, second. Thank you. Thank you for the second. Any comments or questions on this at all? Just, yes, ma'am.
Are we removing anything from the consent agenda?
No,
No,
That's not
putting in.
that's next week. The committees are bringing
Happy
forward
New
what
Year.
they'd like to be on the agenda, so we can put the agenda together. Yeah. All right, I have one, Mr. Sanchez, one, just clarification, just a little information. The number 2 with regarding the water, could you just give a quick summary of what that is? That's coming from revenue recoupment rather than from ARPA funds?
Well, there are various usages for water under ARPA, and I'm sorry, I'm not fully brushed up on all the technicalities of that. But when we originally looked at these projects, we had the Kane County Water Monitoring Network project and the Water Sustainability Mapping project. The first thought was that it would be eligible under one of the main water categories for ARPA. But again, upon further reflection, it seemed to make more sense and be much more of an appropriate spend to come out of revenue recoupment, which is general government services. So while the technicalities of the water requirements under ARPA kind of put these projects outside of that scope, government services, it's a welcome home for these projects. And I don't know if Jamie, if Ms. Wolnick is there.
She's right here.
Yeah, if she wants to give a few comments on that.
Certainly. I think myself, Jody Walnick, Director of Environmental and Water Resources, I may be a little confused about this resolution. As I understand, the ARPA committee had moved funds into our 405 budget. And this resolution was actually previously passed. So my understanding is the only amendment is actually moving those funds back into the ARPA funds, and our bills would then be paid out of ARPA as the other projects are being managed. So I can talk about these specific projects, but I wasn't sure that that was the intent of this resolution based on my conversation with Kathy.
This is really a bookkeeping.
All right, so is it, the money is being transferred out and transferred in?
It was transferred out into our account based on the original resolution. And that's not the standard by which the ARPA committee is following for the internal projects. And so this would transfer the money back out of our cost share drainage fund, which also houses the funds for water sustainability, and back into the ARPA accounts.
All right, I think I.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Bates, please.
Madam Chair, Bates, please.
Yes, let Mr. Sanchez speak first, please, and then Kathy Hopkinson is in the room as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think previously what the finance department had done was to move it into that account of 504, as Jody mentioned. But we're trying to, I guess, kind of streamline and keep better tabs of where the money is coming out of. So having this come out of revenue recoupment is just a more appropriate fit.
Okay, and her head is nodding yes.
Yeah, and we have no objection to that.
That's what I was wondering. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Bates.
Well, I think Mr. Sanchez answered the issue. This is a ARPA funding. I consider it a housekeeping issue for keeping our funds straight on the ARPA plan, and it won't affect the water studies. The water studies will still get done. Thank you.
Okay, and I do hope you feel better. You sound a little bit stuffy.
I'm a little crummy. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions on this at all? I don't mean to take liberty with this, but I do have a conversation that happened yesterday regarding resolution number 1. And that came from Ms. Labrillo regarding the compensation level. Ms. Labrillo, would you be willing to speak to this, or has it been settled?
This was just a matter of the staff position listed not being consistent with what we just passed in the equity study. Just yesterday, fairly late afternoon, I reached out to Suzanne and Mr. Sanchez for more information. So we haven't fully explored this to the point where I have any answers yet or have it settled yet, but it was just late yesterday afternoon that I became aware of it.
Okay, so my question is that we have until next week for the board to approve this. So this is just simply bringing it forward to the board for further discussion. Will you have that situation settled at that point? So this could possibly be amended if it needs to.
I'm awaiting a response from the message that I sent late yesterday afternoon. So I don't have an answer to that until I receive a
Be
response.
deferred, Shepro. I mean, it could be deferred at the board meeting if there's still a question about it.
Okay, very good, very good. It's just because we've got that new policy in place for compensation, and we're getting adjusted to that. That's what this is about. So thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Could we, with no further discussion, please call the roll?
I do have that Sanchez motioned and Pius seconded. Okay, thank you.
On both 1 and 2.
On 1 and 2, correct.
Allen,
Aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes?
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes. And just clarification, item 1 would then be requested to be off agenda since we're requesting additional information. Okay.
Good point. Thank you very much.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges, Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Passes.
Mr. Ford.
So Shepro, just so number 1 will be forwarded, but off
agenda.
consent. Number 2 will remain
On consent, correct.
unless otherwise taken off later.
Okay, Mr. Ford.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is an ordinance establishing the Woodgate subdivision special service area. This is in Kane County, the levy of taxes for the purpose of paying the cost of providing special service in such area. I make the motion.
Thank you. And we have the pop of some soda being opened up. Is there a second?
Second.
Miss Allen, fine, thank you. Any discussion on this? No? All right, with no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges. Oh, sorry. Tepe.
Happy yes.
And Mr. Ford, you too, get better soon. You sound a little bit better than Miss Bates not by much though.
I'm working on it.
Get that chicken soup going. Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Finance has 16 items.
Mr. Berman? Tepe here. I'd like to remove item 16 from the consent agenda.
Well,
Fine. So we have 15 items, 1 through 15. And I move for approval of all those. And I will go through each one.
Gums will second.
Some seconds.
Item 1 is a resolution approving November 2023 claims paid of $15,218,924.60. 2 is a resolution authorizing fiscal year 23 budget adjustment transfer from the tax sale and error fund to the general fund of $87,978.54. Item 3, a resolution authorizing fiscal year 24 budget adjustment for the circuit clerk's office of $145,103. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing fiscal year 24 budget adjustment and fund transfer from Fund 234 to Fund 221. It's just a transfer. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing design build with NCAP Incorporated for the design and construction of the Geneva Creek Stabilization Project in Kane County, $499,607. 6 is a resolution authorizing annual renewal of City View license and maintenance with Harris Corporation, $143,961.89. 7 is a resolution authorizing renewal of contract for benefit administration services, $160,000. Item A, a resolution authorization of a contract extension for the Kane County Building Automation System, BAS, and repair services. It's at an hourly rate. Number 9 is a resolution authorizing a contract extension for Mill Creek SSA brush pickup services, $29,906.69. And 10 is a resolution authorizing a contract extension for the Mill Creek SSA turf fertilization weed control services, $18,954. 11 is an resolution authorizing a contract extension for Mill Creek SSA Parkway tree and stump removal services, $30,000. 12 is a resolution ratifying emergency purchases affidavit to purchase the 2022-2023 Ford Super Duty F-450 salt truck for the Building Management Department of $101,946.26. 13 is a resolution approving the purchase of a replacement vehicle for the sheriff's office for only $55,140. And 14 is a resolution authorizing capital projects from the capital fund, $11,604,572. And item 15 is a resolution authorizing participation in the appellate prosecutor program for $49,000. That's the end of my.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions on any of these items? If 16 has been pulled off. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges, Tepe.
Steffi, yes.
Passes.
And for item 16, motion to approve ordinance amending section 2-196A of the Kane County Code, depositories of funds of the county treasurer collector using J.P. Morgan Chase.
Do I have a second?
Burgess.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Mr. Tepe.
Steffi here. I would like to remind the members of the committee that several months ago, long-term bank that had been handling the finances of Kane County informed the treasurer that because of internal controls, they would no longer be continuing. I've never been satisfied with any of the responses, nor have I heard any response saying that these kinds of internal controls are such that will now be followed, and that they will be so satisfactory to our new brand, to our new bank. So I will be voting against this.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
How often do you fire?
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates, Miss
Bates,
Bates.
yes. Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe.
Steffi, no.
Madam Chair,
Passes.
that's the end of my, that's the end of my, finance.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Always interesting. Money makes the county go round. Human Services, Mr. Surges.
Madam Chair, we have before you resolution restating the Kane County Equal Employment Opportunity Plan for June 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. This is a housekeeping matter that's always done in arrears.
Very good. Any just,
Allen,
do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Allen. Discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe.
Steffi, yes.
Passes. All right, Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Judicial and Public Safety Committee has one item we'd like to move to the consent agenda, and that is authorizing the Kane County Sheriff's Office to implement a standard security protocol to enhance and maintain safety measures for the Kane County Government Center. So basically, this is allowing the sheriff, the security experts to provide us with a plan. Once there is a plan in place, it will come back in front of us to review as another resolution. So I make a motion to move.
Gums will second.
Thanks, Ms. Gums. Is there any conversation on this? Questions? All right,
Bates,
hearing
please.
none. Oh, Ms. Bates, yes, please.
I just want to thank the sheriff for taking on this extra duty for us. That's all.
All right, your thanks have been well heard.
So bad.
Anybody else? No? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe.
Steffi, yes.
Passes.
Okay, very good. Mr. Davis, I'd like to recognize you, but I just want to confirm. Can he present this? You can present, but you may not vote. So please feel free.
Right. On the erring, Davis here, erring on the side of caution, I'll offer that we have 10 resolutions to move to the consent agenda. And I'll ask Mr. Ford not to read them all, but if he can choke out a so moved, I'll have him offer these, make the motion and then ask for a second.
Okay, you cannot make the motion. I was just told, but you
Right,
can
that's why I'm
present them.
asking Mr. Ford to
Yeah.
just say so moved and I'll read them for him.
Surges move.
Just Surges moves.
Okay.
And Mr. Ford, you second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I just asked Ron because he's ex officio for transportation, but that's
That's
fine.
fine. That's fine. We got
Okay.
it done. All right,
So-
please.
I could have tortured you and asked you to read them all, Ron.
I would have tried my best.
I know you would, but all right. The first one is the approving the appropriation for the county engineer's salary, and I'm happy to report that half of that's covered with federal funds, so that's good. The second and third are the motor fuel tax appropriations that are used by transportation. Number 4 is the agreement with the Workday Adaptive Planning, which our finance director referred to earlier as a very useful tool that we're trying to expand on. Number 5 is approving our Adopt a Highway applicants. I believe it's one new and one renewal, perhaps. Number 6, we were fortunate to find and secure a street sweeper to replace the aging, hard to repair one. Number 7 is approving an intergovernmental agreement. In fact, 7 and 8 are both about the nice work and new roundabout and having Old Bliss Road and part of New Bliss Road transfer of jurisdiction to the township, which is good news. Number 9 is approving the appropriation for CMAP, who does excellent work for us, collaborative effort. Number 10, engineering services agreement with HR Green, so that we can have structure safety, bridges and overpasses inspected and safe for all of our people in Kane County. That's our 10.
All righty, very good. Are there any questions on any of these items?
No, Chair.
Who was that? Oh, Mr. Linder. Yes, sir.
Hi, Linder here. Just a question of curiosity. Number 6, the street sweeper. It says it's the 2025 street sweeper. Does that mean you're going to wait for a long time? No.
No, I think we were fortunate that we found one that's available, but Mike, are you there to?
Yeah, this is Mike Sikozik from KDOT. Yeah, it'll be a 2025 model. Will be built in late 2024, I think.
Yeah, so you will be waiting for it.
We will be waiting.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Hot off the manufacturing site then. It'll be hot off the manufacturing site.
Brand new.
Is it diesel efficient?
Yes.
Efficient?
Hope it's not electric. Electric.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
aye.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Linder, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges, Tepe.
That'd be yes.
Passes?
Passes.
Release of minutes.
Yep.
May I, yes, we're going to be releasing minutes now. May I please have a motion and a second to approve the release of closed session minutes? As-
Exhibit B.
Madam Chair, Gums.
A or B?
B.
B.
Thought it was A.
Okay, so Exhibit B.
Madam Chair, Gums, I'd like to move, if not previously released, Exhibit A, 8/2 of 2023, 1/4 2023, and 7/6 of 2022.
Exhibit B.
Is that A or B? We're just getting
A.
A or B?
Okay.
A or B? Yeah, I,
A or B,
Then
yeah.
exhibit-
Okay,
Just say the attachment as agreed upon and.
that's
It's
the
agreed
one
upon.
I meant
in
to say.
executive
That's
decision, or
exactly what I
executive
said,
session.
just didn't.
We get that as
Right.
that. All right, do you want to say? it
I need
one
a
more time
second.
just for clarity, ma'am?
If not previously released.
Okay.
To adopt Exhibit A or B or what was presented,
All of the above.
all of the above.
Thank you. Do
No,
I?
or
Yes.
A or B or whatever was presented during closed session.
I said as presented, or what
And
was-
said all of the above.
and all of,
that
the-
off.
oh, no, not all of the above.
My gosh.
Okay, are we ready? Let's read it one more time so that the clerk can have the proper notes. Third time is the charm, Ms. Gums.
If not previously released.
Oh,
Release
Hmm.
Exhibit A, B, or what was presented in executive session.
can't listen.
Well, we just read that as A, B, just say.
What was present
What was presented?
Here you go. In executive session. Do you have that? Okay, okay, so what was presented in executive session? Do I have a second?
And recommended, just say what was presented and recommended to be released.
Okay, we've already got that. All right. Thank you. Roll call.
Could
we have said what we said?
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe.
Deputy, yes.
They released.
Very good. Attorneys love clarity of language because it gets argued through the courts. So it's appropriate. So, are there any committee reports? We've got lots, so let's start with Ms. Gums.
I actually don't have a committee report, but I do have a quick question. When it comes to the labor management meetings and our contracts, we haven't had a labor management meeting for a while, so I hope to anticipate one of those before our next CBA is approved.
Sure.
Yeah,
They call it.
because we, like normally we have those and then we haven't had one. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. In the future, we will have one.
I will talk with our attorney who handles all the CBAs and we'll get something set up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, when we settle a contract, that's happening.
Mr. Surges.
Madam Chair, Surges, committee reports for Human Services. We have a item on the agenda coming up next week that I just want to get out there into the ether as we begin discussions on it. Because I believe this is a bit controversial, not so much from the public perspective, but within our own ranks. We'll be discussing the out-of-state employment discussion for employees here at Kane County. And I asked Jamie and Catherine to stay because I don't want to misstate this. I believe that there are some internal obstacles, hurdles that we have by employing somebody that does not live in Illinois. And those obstacles are regarding state taxes as well as unemployment, and as well as workers' compensation issues, and how we need to come into conformance with the guidelines of the other states, and that our software just simply can't accommodate that. On the other hand, I have equally been solicited by department heads that it is a growing trend to continue to employ people that maybe aren't live in-house in a building, that may be a work from home or a outsourced scenario. And those people are not limited to the state of Illinois when they say we're working from home. They could be, in neighboring states, they could be across the country. So I think we're at an impasse because we have a second or third or fourth request for that situation. We are not set up in any way, shape, or form to accommodate that. And I'll be turning to my 24 peers, my other 23 peers, for guidance on what policy decision they would like, but that is coming up for the next Human Services Committee to begin discussion. Ladies, did I do any justice to that whatsoever?
Other than I thought you
Solid.
said we were employing dead people.
That's that.
There's a question.
Wrong county.
No live employees anymore? Mr. Surges,
Mr. Surges, there is a question.
I just a question. You said that they're not set up for the software, but any policy would not extend to the independent elected officials. Is that correct?
Mr. Shepro, I'm really not quite sure how that works, what our jurisdiction is, but since Ms. Labrillo and Ms. Hopkinson just jumped up to the podium, I'm sure they have something to say.
Just to add, it's not really a software issue so much as a legal issue associated with being in compliance with all the employment laws associated with the state. So if someone lives in another state and performs work within that state, they are an employee within that state, which would mean Kane County would have to have a compliant handbook associated with the laws of those states to apply to that employee. In addition, if there was a workers' compensation claim, that would need to be adjudicated in that state. We do not have, our workers' compensation attorney does not licensed in other states. In addition, we would have to carry unemployment insurance. So in addition to the costly expense associated with paying taxes in that other state and payrolling the other state and doing filings in the other state, there are a bunch of legal implications as well. And we would need a lot more staff to manage those legal implications if we were to pursue that. One of the biggest problems with, having out-of-state employees is these larger companies that do employ multi-state employees typically have a human resources person in each of those states to manage the laws of that state. So there's a lot of implications to it, which is why it rises to the level of being a policy decision.
All right, well, thank you. I believe we're going to have a much more in-depth conversation at Human Services, and thank you for the highlights on that. And I'm sure that there's going to be both sides of this question will be presented as we go further with this potential policy. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else? No? Okay, very good. Is there anybody else who has an update on their committees? Hearing none, all righty. If there's no more public comment, Mr. Kenyon.
Not to be fooled by the clock. I move we adjourn, but it's 12:04. It's only a 45. So Roger, your clock. Only a 45-minute meeting. Clock got tired of
Thought, time, we were just being very efficient according to that. clock.
We lost that time.
Mr. S. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?